remember seeing you at a lot of open mics and never knew about the stage fright.
Even back in the 60s and 70s when I did most of my performing, people would tell me they couldn't tell that I was scared to death. And
Yeah.
even when I went back to it in the 90s,
Yeah.
people would tell me that they couldn't tell that I was scared to death, but I was still scared to death.
Right.
The first real performance I did an hour-long set, 45-minute set, standard set. And at the end of it, I was doing a bottleneck version of a song by Terry Champlin, Helen Avakian's husband. And Helen and Terry were there. And it was played on the bottleneck, and I was singing the song along with it. And I was so nervous at the end of that set, literally as I hit the last note, fortunately, the slide from the Hawaiian guitar went flying out of my hands 5 feet. And all Helen had to do was open her hands like this, and it landed 5 feet away. It landed exactly in her hands. But that's how nervous I was. It was flying out of my hand. But other than that, people couldn't tell I was nervous. I'm nervous now, actually.
Yeah.
This is more like open mic than I expected.
Well, yeah. So then, recently we had this unfortunate situation where you lost the house.
Yes.
So when did that happen? Just
That happened January 31st, or Wednesday night. There's minor pieces of good news mixed in with the bad. The house is gutted. I was there when it happened. Normally I would not have been. I would have been picking up Reb from work, but she was supposed to work late that night. And at 4:45 I went into the house, and part of one of the electrical systems was down. So I went and checked the box, and by the time that I walked for 40 feet back from the box into the main part of the house, one of the walls was already in flame. It was yellow pine that had been dried by years of heating with wood. 2 years ago we started heating with gas instead. And the first thing I did is call 911, and then I grabbed 2 guitars, because Reb has a very precious 1972 Martin. And I grabbed that and the 12-string, which is downstairs, and brought them over here, leaned them against the kitchen counter, went back in, grabbed 2 more guitars, the Hawaiian and the Alvarez, and at that point it occurred to me that I had some oxygen canisters in the old garage section. So I took 2 more trips, got 4 of them out. Meanwhile, I was screaming and shouting at the cats. One cat I could see on the living room couch, and he eventually came racing out the door. Unfortunately, we lost Lily Vitabi. Reb had written a song for her years back, because Lily basically insisted on it and wouldn't leave her alone until it was written. And we love Lily, and we miss her. And then the fire department was here within 10 minutes, but by that point it was already very, very clear. But I was here to tell the fire department, which is composed of old friends, or at least people I've known for a long time, about the oxygen that was still left in the house, because if we had lost a few firemen as well, I mean, I don't know that I could recover from that.
right.
But the house is destroyed. The insurance company screwed up and did not. We had put an addition on last year, and they didn't. Even though they gave a verbal order to raise the coverage to 70, they didn't. And so it's theoretically only covered for 7, and the latest word we have is they're probably not paying that anyway. So the community has been, both the Rosendale community and the music community has been grand to us, and have put on a couple of fundraisers, one quite mammoth actually, which you filmed, you know that one. Right. And even starting the day after the fire, when they found out the insurance wasn't there, there's local carpenters walking around muttering, well, this is a town full of carpenters, we'll build them a house. So, but at the moment we're hung up because we need to get some legal things in motion against the insurance companies, unfortunately. It's not the way we prefer to do things.
Right.
And until we do that, we can't do anything about getting the hulk of the house torn down.
Right.
We do have an offer, I should mention, from a local businessman who owns property in Bloomington and owns dump trucks. We have a wonderful offer that he'll send his dump trucks and his drivers, and they'll truck what's left over to his property, and he'll get a burn permit and finish it off there. That will save us about $7,000.
All right, that's great.
Interestingly enough, a lot of the people who've been best to us in these circumstances have been rock-ribbed Republicans.
Uh-huh.
But
It has transcended the political
Right.
spectrum.
Okay, let's pause for just a sec.